Yeah, I was just curious. I saw that we got the work items types table merging, which is awesome. So good work, everyone. Do we need to do anything to better break down the, I guess, or refine the MVC zeros for the front end and back end? Because there's still, I think there's 48 issues in the front end and 5 in the back end. And only one of them has a weight on it. So just curious how we want to track the work.
Well, I can speak a little bit to that, maybe. Just, you know, the one that's the move issue type to separate separate table, that's actually going to be about 3 or 4 MRs that I'm actually tracking within that specific issue. So I can break those out into more issues if you want.
I don't need more issues. It's just if like, I guess it will be helpful for me and Kristen just to kind of see. And if so, if like, I don't care how many MRs there are per issue. But is there any other large scale things that we need to do for MVC 0 besides sort of adding the support for the default issue types, which is something that's also like customer value too. So, or are we going to add support for default issue types or not for this? I guess that would be a question.
I'll have to go back and look through that again in the next day and see if I can, you know, either break something out or make sure we're all set.
Cool.
So,
all right, will you add for the one you mentioned, the moving issue type to separate tables, will you just add kind of an overall weight on that? I get the sense that it's sort of, you know, known work in terms of how you'll approach it, but just so that we have some sense for that.
Sure.
And then the replace issue type with work item types table is the one that was just merged, right?
Okay. The create issue types table.
Right. Sorry, I'm just looking at the tasks in the issue now.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The replace issue type is the one that has the multiple MRs.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it to Brett. I think that like MVC 0 from the backend perspective was mostly or is mostly kind of the decision making and the technical discussion, which a lot of that has happened and has been successful so far. But I guess my point would be like, Brett, as you get into it, if there's things that you want broken out into more granular issues, we should do that so we can keep track of it. That's my perspective on it. Does that make sense, Gabe, or does that cause more pain for you?
No, it's fine. I'm down to track the work either as tasks on an issue or different issues. Just trying to think about if it's like a joint cross stage effort. There's a lot of backend engineers and there's a lot of front end engineers, and I just want to make sure that like we're focused on the most important things to move things forward as quickly as possible in 14.2 within reason. Like I know that Holly is pretty close with the initial designs for MVC1, both the mobile view and the web view. So like we should be able to get started on that at some point. And yeah, I just don't want us to get to the end of 14.2 and only have made a little progress where most of the team works on other things, maybe that like aren't as important. That's all.
Does it make sense to start breaking down MVC 1 then? Because the end of MVC 0, it's hard to kind of determine like what the actual deliverables are going to be from MVC 0, where MVC 1 will actually should accomplish something in code. So I'm wondering if it's easier just to break that down. But then again, to your point, Gabe, it still will be hard to determine like what we're working on in 14.2 outside of us just saying that we know we're all working on MVC 0 and 14.2.
Yeah, that's why I raised the question of if we want to ship the user facing support for default issue types and like we keep feature behind a feature flag or something like that. Because that one change will also require us to go and or gives us the opportunity to go and add like icons to the issue list, add icons to cards on boards. And there's like a bunch of front end work we're going to have to do anyways, right? Before we want to turn this on so that there's a clear differentiation between a feature and a bug or a issue or whatever these other types are. So in terms of MVC 0, I see the thing that could be deliverable if we want it to be would be that user facing support for default issue types. And then MVC 1 is building on top of that with the feature itself. I don't know if we want to do that or not, but that's what I would recommend at least.
That's part of the issue though, is if you're wanting to add the icon types and all that stuff, that requires some of the work to actually get the issue types moved over to the issue to the work items table.
Yep.
So that's kind of the foundation under this. So certainly the UI can be started on that, but it wouldn't work until we had the issue types actually migrated over.
Yep, that makes sense.
And then
And I think,
sorry, Brett.
go ahead.
The work to get that moved over is going to, like, we still need to do some other preliminary work before we do that, right? Or is that something that can happen in the next 1 or 2 milestones?
No, that can happen in the next few weeks. That's what getting that table in there was kind of the first thing and kind of the thing we couldn't do anything else out without getting that in. So now I can start putting the migration code in and getting stuff moved over, and that's what I'm working on next. I was waiting for that merge to get in before I could really get into that. So
Okay, so yeah, I'm okay from the front end side of making that be our goal for 14.2 slash MVC 0 is getting the UI. I think, Holly, are we good on, like, do we have all the designs we need as far as icons and stuff for issue types?
When you say icons and stuff, do you mean just like the smaller design details, or do you mean like the overall designs? Are they complete?
Just the smaller details for, yeah, issue types within like the current list view.
I think so. I'm trying to reuse as many patterns as possible. I think the only newer things might be for badges. I'm talking with Jeremy about how to kind of tweak the design, because the badge and for status in particular in this design is going to be a button. And so we're trying to kind of change that, since currently statuses are not buttons. We're trying to make them look kind of like buttons, but still like badges. But it's still reusing existing iconography. It's just changing the layout of the button design itself a little bit. Other than that, I'm trying to stay consistent with colors and patterns and typography and styles and things like that. So I don't see anything crazy happening there.
To answer your question, Donald, we have icons for all the default issue types we defined. I think we're gonna probably want to add 2 more defaults at some point, like because a ticket, right, which is the issues that or work items that get created from service desk, and then another one for task, which we'll work on like after feature, which will be the child of whatever the issue is now. But we can add those later, right? So I don't think we're blocked on any design assets for actually showing like a type icon in the list or in a detail view or in a card view on a board.
Thanks, Gabe. Sorry if I misunderstood your question, Donald.
I was just typing there. Currently that sort of adding support for default issue types, that layout there, that way that issue is broken down is it's marked as blocked by the Hamilton view issue list. Is that accurate? Or like, is that like an actual blocker?
I don't know. I didn't write it as a blocker. It's close. Kong's been working on it. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed it's got like just a handful of tasks left in there. So I think it's probably close. I just didn't know, Donald, if you know if that's going to be turned on or if that's a hard blocker for I don't know that it needs to be necessarily, but I'm not really sure on the front end side.
Sorry, I was trying to take notes from what we were talking about earlier.
Sorry.
Is this around the issue list, getting the issue list refactor done?
Yeah,
as
is that
blocker?
is that a hard blocker for delivering that first piece of user value on the default issue types?
Ideally, yes.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not like we can go ahead and do this on the old code if that.
If Gabe's aggressively shaking his head no, which is fine.
So
And
then yes, it is a blocker.
Yeah, that I think we should do it right. We shouldn't add more work to ourselves. I was just vocalizing that, like, given that we have that still in progress, and if we wanted to then add kind of the back end for the default issue types and get the front end user functionality done in the next 3 weeks, I think that might be, I don't know. I don't want to like undersell us, but I also don't want to I don't want to get in a situation where we have this expectation where we're like, oh yeah, we'll ship the default issue types, and then we're like, oh wait, we still have like things to clean up with the issue list that is a blocker.
Yeah, let's do this because right now, Julian, I think, is spending a decent amount of his bandwidth on this, on the back end of this, getting it over to GraphQL. And then this is also Kong's focus. Let me talk to Kong and get a better feel for what is left and if it's even feasible to get it done in the next couple of weeks, to get the refactor done in the next couple of weeks. And then we can figure out if we can, because to get the issue types, at least on the front end, done with the refactored code is not a huge lift. So we can probably get that done like really shortly after we get the refactor done. So if it's feasible to get the refactor done in the next couple of weeks, then it should be reasonable to get this done also in 14.2. But let me just confirm where we're at with Kong.
Cool. Thanks, Tom.
Yep.
Anybody have anything else they want to talk about, share, showcase, discuss, collaborate on?
I was just going to say that Alexandria's out for the next 2 weeks. Brett's obviously working very hard on the stuff. I think Mario and Heinrich have not been as involved in the work items type stuff yet. So, and I expect them to be eventually, but they've been just kind of on other stuff. The delayed deletion stuff is done or awaiting the last kind of like technical writing review before it's done for us, which is great. That'll be kind of a big weight off of our shoulders. And then I was going to ask you, Gabe, about having Heinrich dive into the search stuff next, which I think like isn't directly work items related, but for us to be able to effectively search work items, issue search will need to be able to work. So I was thinking that was probably a good investment, but I wanted to, plus the reliability and scalability stuff. So I wanted to clear that with you before I sort of officially point in that direction.
Yeah, I think it's important, however we ended up solving for it. If it's with PG full text search, I did DM Heinrich and I asked him, I was like, I wonder if we can use like TS vector for things like, doing the complex sorts and stuff like that too, because I was reading about it and it might be able to, like, if we treat a lot of that stuff as text, it might be able to fix a lot of problems. But I think that's the right thing, because in terms of our overall product themes of SaaS reliability, right now, we have a customer that's larger than us who's on .com that can't use, basically like it's way more broken for them than it is for us, because they have like 256,000 issues or something like that. So like they can't use search at all. And I think it would tie into that theme of kind of reliability. I don't know, Melissa, you're on the call. We had those 3 OKRs. I just want to make sure all of our work lines to the OKRs too. But I think we do need to fix that either way, because it's pretty broken.
Yeah, on that note of, okay, ours is a good segue. There's a couple of things as far as like, I guess, making sure that we're accounting for all different priorities, right? So there's the OKRs that we put together around reliability. I believe those are covered, right? Or they should be, maybe not next milestone, but within the next couple. And then the other one that came to mind was workspaces, right? And continuing to invest in that. So, okay, John is working with IMRE, and I believe that would continue, right? And at least until IMRE has a POC, and then we might shift and invest more. I don't know. That's a question for you all. Because per where the OKR ended up, it's issues and epics. And I don't know what that means with work items too, now that we're going to be consolidated on that architecture. So that's something to tease out as a group of basically what exactly are we going to tackle in scope of that OKR.
I'll speak from product. I think because it supports the longer work item things strategy, we need to get issues or work items at the group level more than we need epics and projects. So Jan is working on the issues in the group prototype or POC, and while I'm Reese working on epics and projects. I think we need to basically get issues at the group level and make it generally available, and then reassess priorities. But yeah, eventually we kind of need to have that as an ongoing theme where we start to port stuff over to the namespace. Like, you know, we'll provide a lot of customer value as well. Like labels is a huge one. I think we listed out a bunch of different potential or possibilities. So having a couple folks work on that, basically, we can even swap out who's doing which objects or whatever, so everyone has a chance to interact with that part of the code and learn about it. But yeah, I think it's important.
Okay, so that you cleared up one thing, and I just wanted to confirm that basically by making issues available at the namespace level, that will be future-proof basically for as we're expanding on top of issues to make them types, and as we build new types, still will be available at both the group and project level.
Correct. So it's in order to deprecate epics fully, we have to have something, a work item right at the group level so that you can migrate epics onto this like work item hierarchy. So you have to have the issues that in the namespace, and then we also have to have parenting on work items or issues. And then once those two things, and then the types is like kind of underpins all that. And once those are all there, then we can migrate epics over basically to work items. That will also unblock the ability to have parenting on requirements, parenting on test cases, so you can group test cases into a test session, like all these other things. So like those are kind of the 3 most important things: issues at group level, types, the type foundation type stuff, and then adding parenting to work items.
Okay.
But isn't the moving of issues to groups, isn't that one path to the consolidation of groups and projects, which is the real goal, right? We're not actually wanting issues on groups, we're wanting issues on this combined entity, right?
Correct. That's why what basically Jan and Imre, how do you pronounce it? Imre, they're doing is they're doing a proof of concept to show how you can move like core objects, like issues, to the namespace, and then the namespace will wrap both the group and then a group namespace and then a project namespace. So that way, when we put things like move things in the namespace, they're available at both things below them. So it's like a class, or however you say it in code, like above, basically, that would wrap both the group and project. So that's like how they're going to approach consolidating groups and projects over the long run, and then eventually move, I think, most everything except for repos. At least that's the working theory last time I read. Move everything except for repos out of the project into the namespace. but eventually you'll be able to have repos in the namespace too. So that's part of that effort, right? So we won't actually be like linking it to the group. We'll be moving it issue to the namespace, and then project and group get the namespace so that they get issues.
Okay, so then it's essentially fairly decoupled from the more generalized, like introducing types and widgets and whatnot to issues. As long as we do that other part, it can be fairly separate.
Yep. And we just have to have like the work items move them to the namespace in order to enable migration of epics to work item. I think if I'm wrong in there, please correct me.
I think that's it's right as far as we know, I guess would be the current state. Like, you know, we have I'll say that it like currently we can compartmentalize it as decoupled. There may come a time when we're like, oh, we like this is moving forward and now we have different decisions we have to make on the work items work because of that. But like as of right now, we can kind of not think about it, I guess, is the current state.
The only question I would have is, for example, types. What level are they tied to? As an example.
Right,
They're tied to
if you
the
want. Or Jake, you can. Sorry.
You're
well,
talking
they're
about
tied to
work
the
item types?
yeah, go ahead, Brett. Sorry.
You're talking about the work item types or the issue types? Those are tied to the top level namespace right now.
Yeah, so that would be something to check on with John and Imre to see if that's what the future model will look like. I don't, or to at
Probably
least
not, though,
consider.
but
Yeah.
that's where they're going to live now. I mean, that's the only place to put them right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the idea is you can't, if we, depending on when we get to enabling customizing types and stuff, the type that will only live at your top level namespace. I guess eventually that would be the workspace for self-managed. And then that gets inherited down, and then you can't change them anywhere downstream yet, because that opens up a lot of other complexities, like if you have to move issues from one project to another that doesn't have the same type and blah, blah. So we're gonna like defer that as long as possible. Maybe never do it. If we can get away with just having them at sort of the highest level namespace.
Okay. So then right now it doesn't matter anyway, is what you're saying, right? Because you can't change them. They'll be the same kind of everywhere.
Yep.
Okay.
Gabe, do you want to plug your talk?
Oh yeah,
coming
my
up here
talk
in 6 minutes.
starts in 6 minutes.
Yay!
Code talk with Kristen, who's not here. I think she'll be in the actual talk, but it's we're sort of highlighting our roadmap direction, talking about some common challenges customers are facing. It's 21 minutes in length, so it's not that long, but if you're interested, probably won't be anything new to y'all since we talk about all this stuff, but it's more public facing so that we can let our customers, the wider community, know where we're headed with the plan stage. So go for it if you want to check it out. Starts in 6 minutes.
I heard you had fun getting rid of some GIFs.
Yeah, so I put the presentation together and Legal was not too pleased with my satire, put it that way. So we had to do some back and forth negotiations on what I could and couldn't include. Unfortunately, I wasn't allowed to use the SAFe diagram, from the SAFe Scaled Agile Frameworks website. And I was going to put just a black box over it that says I wasn't what legal told me I couldn't show this picture, but I wanted to keep it a little bit professional, not quite as undermining. So I removed that to keep things, relationships with folks outside of GitLab smooth. Yeah, it's great.
But we all want access to the unredacted version when you
Yeah, we need the unfiltered.
I'll go find the version history on it and share it with y'all, and you can check it out. On that note, I am leaving so I can go get stuff set up.
Cool. Good luck.
Goodbye.
Thanks.
Good luck. Bye.
Bye, everyone.